So good morning. Hello everyone. Welcome. So for this morning's meditation, I would like to evoke maybe an experience from some of your childhoods. If you've ever been on a seesaw as a child, but standing in the middle, on either side of the fulcrum, and trying to find the balance so that both sides of the seesaw are parallel to the ground. Sometimes getting there takes some muscles to push one way or the other. But when you find the midpoint and you're able to stand there with the seesaw balanced, there's no longer a lot of effort needed. Maybe just a little bit of adjustment with the little bit of adjustments with just the weight a little bit, but it's very little. So in meditation, we can find that balance point that stands between pleasure and pain, between what's comfortable and not comfortable, where we're not leaning into the pain or pulling away from leaning into the pain or leaning into the pleasure, leaning into the leaning away from the pain, leaning away from the pleasure. We're not, if you go in meditation towards the pleasure too much, the whole seesaw tips. If you go to attack the pain, the seesaw tips. But there's a place of standing in the middle, the balance point, where mindfulness has the greatest ability to become clear. Clearing the fog, clearing the air, clearing the heart and mind. Completely connected to either side, because that's where the balance point is. So it's not avoiding anything, but it's also not picking it up or going towards it or reacting to it. Being balanced in the middle of it all and clearly seeing. And for today, it's the midpoint between comfort and discomfort, pleasure and pain. So to assume a meditation posture and to gently close your eyes. And feel the weight of your body against whatever's supporting your body. Maybe imagining that the support points is the midpoint of the seesaw. And maybe adjusting your weight a little bit, your posture, so that you feel more balanced on those pressure points. Maybe as you exhale, just settling into those pressure points of support. Gently, maybe lovingly, taking some little bit deeper breaths, just deep enough to feel a richer connection to yourself, your body. And to relax the body as you exhale. Letting your breathing return to normal. And continue to relax on the exhale. But imagine you're relaxing equally, evenly on either side of your body. So relaxing the shoulders, both together. So there's a settling maybe into the midpoint, the balance point between them. Relaxing in the chest. Equally on both rib cages, throughout the diaphragm. Perhaps settling, relaxing into the midpoint of the chest. Balance point. On the exhale, softening in the belly. Equally on both sides of the body, both sides of the belly. Maybe relaxing on the sides of the waist. Relaxing into the midpoint. Maybe if you're sitting in a cushion or a chair, there might be some sense of relaxing into the tailbone, where the tailbone gets close to the chair, the cushion, the midpoint. And then on the exhale, on the inhale, feel your thinking mind. Whatever you associate with the energy or tension, pressure of thinking, whatever is physically activated around thinking, feel it on the inhale, and on the exhale, relax the thinking mind. And relaxing evenly on both sides of the mind. Relaxing a thinking mind. So you can relax into a midpoint, a center, where the mind itself maybe feels balanced, at ease. If the mind is resting in the easy chair of the brain, the mind can know and be aware without getting up from that chair to look at anything or get away from anything or follow anything, like follow the thoughts. A thinking mind resting at the center, balanced at the center, doesn't go out and doesn't go in, but stands spanning in and out, so whatever comes to awareness is known without being for or against. with some sense of a body being balanced on the seesaw of life. The heart balancing, and the mind balanced. Without not going towards or going away, without trying to fix or to hold on. There's pleasure and there's pain. There's things that feel pleasant and unpleasant. Stay in the balance point. Stay rooted in the middle, where there's balance and a possibility of clarity of seeing. Have you already left the balance point? Tipping in the direction of thinking or reacting? Stay close to your body, your heart, your mind. So all three are lined up, balanced on the seesaw of life. when we're balanced in the playground seesaw, we have to have a certain continuous awareness of our balance. So when we're balanced, the seesaw of pleasure and pain, there needs to be a relaxed, continuous clarity of mind that knows how the system is tipping towards one or the other. And in the knowing, staying balanced. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, to find the midpoint, the balance point between comfort and discomfort, between wanting and not wanting. In that midpoint, to be balanced there, is a significant way to hold yourself in respect, to respect yourself, your value, your presence. And it's also a very significant way from which to respect other people, to respect the dignity, the value, the autonomy of others, where we can care for them deeply, love them, but we're not tipping the seesaw, sliding towards them or away from them, not over-involved or under-involved, but involved with respect in that balance point. And as we end this sitting too, from that place of balance, from a place of respect, care, and appreciation of others, to wish them well, to have our heart radiate with goodness, generosity, respect. May others be happy. May others be safe. May others be peaceful. May others be free. And may the way in which I stay balanced, each of us stays balanced, may we contribute to the welfare and happiness of all beings. May we support others to be balanced and strong in themselves. May all beings be happy. Thank you. So good morning, good day to our second talk on mindfulness of grasping, of clinging. And today there's many synonyms or many members of this family of attachment. And one of them is compulsion. And to be acting on compulsion means that we're not quite in charge and we're not quite involved with uh, the choices we make. And in extreme forms, it can be called addiction. And some people have addictions with their words they speak, with the things that they do. There's a compulsive quality to them. And some people lose themselves in the activity they do. And so the Buddha was addressing this very directly. And he wanted us to be mindful of the whole dynamics of how compulsion, grasping, attachment arises in us. And so clinging and grasping are not abstract ideas. They are physiological events that occur within us. We can feel, in some ways or other, I'd like to propose that generally when we tense up in our body, we're actually grasping to something. Maybe it feels necessary if we want to be safe in some situations. But chronic tension is not about the immediate safety in the situation. Chronic tension has to do with a grasping or clinging or attachment, a sticking to certain kinds of ideas or beliefs or attitudes or feelings that we have. And so sometimes the compulsion is so strong it can feel like we're stuck to something. We have the expression in English, to be stuck on some topic, some idea, some feeling. And so the attachment is strong. So it's a physiological event as well as a mental event and an emotional event. The ecology of grasping, compulsion, is what we start becoming aware of as our mindfulness increases and develops. It's kind of a natural thing. As the mindfulness becomes more sensitive, we become sensitive to where the tensions are, where the contractions are, where the pushings are, where the restlessness is. That's all symptoms of this compulsion. And so one area of compulsion that's very common for many people, maybe everyone, is around what's pleasant and unpleasant, pleasure and pain, comfort and discomfort. And this, for the Buddha, is the second of the 5 bundles of clinging that humans collect. So it's one thing to want to have something sweet to eat, and that's fine. But there's also compulsion to have it, where something takes over and we just not just have one, we have 2, 3, 4 of some sweets because something has taken over and we're an automatic pilot. And each act of compulsion is a new grasping onto something, clinging to it. And so we're gathering together these bundles. And some people live with these bundles of clinging, of compulsion. So it isn't just for something sweet, but it's also for certain kind of pleasures, certain kind of delights, certain kinds of clinging to avoiding discomfort at all costs, and going to great lengths to make ourselves comfortable in situations. Some people are more oriented to comfort and discomfort than others. Maybe a kind of sensuous kind of person, maybe, I don't know exactly what kind, and maybe shouldn't even say it that way, but some people are more oriented to this way, but everyone is to some degree. And there might be many things that we're gathering together into these bundles of attachments, bundles of compulsivity. And it just takes the slightest little change in the circumstance we're in, where the compulsion is ready to act up. And so to start becoming mindful of our relationship to the pleasant and the unpleasant, to comfort and discomfort, to and in many ways, that's very fundamental to the human mind, is to somehow be reacting to pleasant and unpleasant, wanting more pleasant, getting away from the unpleasant, attacking the unpleasant. Some people push away the pleasant. There's something, they have some association with the pleasant that's wrong, maybe in some kind of way, to feel the pleasant experience. Some religious teachings seem to get people thinking that they're not supposed to experience pleasure. And so but in some ways it's kind of always operating. You sit down in a chair and it's a little uncomfortable, you want to make yourself comfortable. You go into a room of people, you look around to see where is it comfortable to sit and uncomfortable based on the people who are there. And there might be more complicated assessment going on, but for some people it's just a simple sense of pleasure and pain that's just operating there. And it can drive a lot of behavior. Some behavior, people will spend days sometimes planning ahead to have a certain kind of pleasure, or to go to a greater extent to avoid a certain kind of discomfort that they don't want to deal with. Sometimes it's more complicated, like with people who are conflict avoidant. It might be more complicated than simply avoiding pleasure, discomfort, but some of it just might be avoiding discomfort. It's just, I don't want to be uncomfortable. There are beliefs that people have around comfort and discomfort, or pleasure and pain. Some people feel like they're a failure, like they've done something wrong, that they're experiencing unpleasantness in their life. And they have to fix that at all costs to kind of prove that they're kind of a worthy person or a successful person or having a good life. Other people, their sense of self gets validated when there's a lot of pleasure, a lot of joy, and then it kind of masks maybe some deeper anxiety that they carry. But they like who they are when there's a lot of pleasure, but when there's no pleasure, then they're left with something deeper about themselves that they're not comfortable with. So, some people identified very strongly with discomfort. Some people actually look for discomfort, look for pain, want to have it in a certain kind of odd way because it's so familiar. Maybe they've grown up in a way that's always their companion, and on the surface they don't want to have it there, but they don't know who they are without it. That's how they've navigated the world, how they've set up even their social relationships is around their pain or their difficulty they have. And so people get attached to these things, and they're attached to a lot. And this is for the Buddha. It isn't just we grab onto one thing. We're grabbing onto lots of them over and over again, and we live carrying these bundles of attachments. And so the Buddha, that's the second of the 5 bundles, the khandhas, often called aggregates. And so for practicing with that, it's central to insight practice to start becoming mindful of how things are pleasant and unpleasant, so that we can see whether or not we're reacting to the pleasant or unpleasant. Because there's a lot of human reactivity, a lot of human motivations that are built on the very simple idea that something is pleasant and unpleasant. I kind of suspect that some political philosophies had their start and someone thought something out in this world was unpleasant for them, and so they wanted to build a whole philosophy to get that to go away and not be there, so that they could be more comfortable. Occasionally, it's that basic to some of the more complicated, sophisticated things people are doing. I've known people who've done, great pieces of science, and they said that basically they're pursuing pleasure. They find a tremendous pleasure and delight in their work, pleasure of the mind, and that's what keeps them going. And that doesn't mean there's attachment. Pleasure is a beautiful, wonderful part of life, and when it's there without attachment and without causing any harm to anyone, there's no reason not to allow ourselves to feel the full extent of the pleasure. And that comes into play in meditation. With a deeper, more concentrated meditation, there's a lot of pleasure that happens. And the idea is to experience it without any for or against, without any attachment, not to make another bundle of grasping around meditative pleasure as we would many other things. So to sit quietly in meditation, being mindful of what is, settling into what is, relaxing into what is here. With time, we start seeing, we start feeling how we're reacting, how we're clinging, how we're for or against thing, we're leaning this way and that way. How we lose our balance point, how we lose that quiet, still point in the middle. That is where we a certain thing comes alive. So if we're balanced on the playground seesaw, and the seesaw is parallel to the ground, there has to be a continuous wakefulness to staying there present. It's most people who might be sleepy, probably their sleepiness goes away or dullness in the mind goes away if they manage to find that balance point on the playground seesaw. And so there's something about waking up to that balance point inside of us that can see and know clearly what's happening. And can feel the difference between leaning forward and leaning back. Literally leaning forward, leaning back when we kind of cringe, we pull back, we lean forward, we feel happy. And there's nothing, again, wrong with that. It's instinctual sometimes. But it's the early warning sign that, oh, now there's possibility that compulsivity happens, grasping happens, that we're getting stuck on something. And so to see mindfulness as being in that balance point between pleasure and pain, between the pleasant and the unpleasant, between comfort and discomfort. And it's a fantastic thing for the wakefulness, the clarity of mind to be strong enough that we're not caught in the orbit of anything. It's almost as if we can see clearly what's happening, where the clarity is not caught in what's happening. Some people call it observing. There's an observing mind that has this balance and clarity. And so we can find ourselves in the seesaw of life, balanced and wise because of that. So thank you. I hope that these talks this week will give you some inspiration to respectfully, kindly, curiously look at how you grasp, how you cling, how you're attached, how you lean one direction to other, how you lean into for and against things. And now for today, just a very simple thing of pleasure, pleasant and unpleasant, pleasure and pain, comfort and discomfort. How do you react to that? How do you live with that? Is there in fact some compulsivity that you have around this? And you might think ahead through the day and kind of consider where during the day are you most likely to be caught up in the issues of pleasant and unpleasant. So you prepare yourself as you go into that situation to remain mindful and try to understand it better. So, thank you.